Andrew. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for having us. I was super excited to have a chance to talk to you about the film. Um, I was actually hoping that the studio could find me as well as the Dr. Ming,
Mm,
but they couldn't get him. But I'm super happy that I can sit down and talk to you because even though it's his story that it's being portrayed in the big screen, but you're the one that brought it to life.
mm.
So starting off that, how did you find Dr. Ming's story?
For sure. Yeah. No, I was approached by a producer friend of mine, Darren Mormon, who we had known in the same circles. We hadn't worked together, but had been in the same circles for a while. And he had been brought into the project to find a director for it. And I know they had taken a lot of meetings and had a lot of different conversations with a number of directors. And it was something that when it came to me, the script was in a place where it focused a lot more on the present day stuff, on the present day side of Dr. Ming Wang's kind of journey. And there was something just so much more powerful to me about his time in China. And really looking at, they had sent me a book as well that he had published, an autobiography. And there was just so many fascinating stories in the past that was kind of my pitch back to them. And to be totally honest, I thought I had kind of blown the interview because I had said, well, maybe you should dig back into the script and try to mine some more moments. Little did I know they'd been working on the script for about 10 years. So that was probably not what they wanted to hear when they were getting so close to finally making the film. But it ended up, we had a couple more follow-up conversations. And, this one was so special because, as you mentioned, Dr. Wang, Ming himself was so close to the project and so involved that it just made the writing process and once we got on set and all those things so much easier having the actual subject matter with us.
Okay, and how was it working with the actual doctor? Because I know that in certain other films that the person is still alive, some of them don't get mixed with the project. They just let everybody be and they make the film.
Yeah.
But usually the person gets involved, just to make sure that everything is like how it's supposed to be and be as realistic as possible. So how
Yeah.
was it working with him?
It was amazing for the reason you just said. None of us outside of Ming have grown up in China, been a part of that time in history, and so to have someone that had lived through that, and they're weighing in on decisions of production design and dialogue and set deck and all the things was just really, really amazing. There's just so many details I think we would have missed, even if we had done all the research. I think there's just so many details we would have missed and so many moments that were inspired because Ming said, oh, I remember, when this event happened, I remember doing this or saying this. And so, it just kind of created that authenticity, as you say. And so it was a great resource, especially with the, for those that have seen the film or are going to see the film, there's a fair bit of the flashbacks that are in Mandarin. And again, that was something that we felt, yes, it's great. We had an translator on set, and we had a lot of other people weigh in, but to have Ming, making sure every single word and every single line was authentic, even in that, was just really important because I do think we would have missed some things.
Okay. And wanted to ask because seeing your previous work, I've seen that you've worked on your most work. You have a balance, yes, but you have a lot of work that is in a lot of films that are faith based.
Mhm.
Is it that you like working on these type of like stories, or or is it more that you just like to, dabble in the faith-based films and go back to like normal traditional films?
Sure. I think I probably get more interested in the subject matter first. I found these stories, along with, the Blind, Phil Robertson, the Duck Dynasty story I did last year, and then Paul Apostle of Christ with Jim Caviezel and James Faulkner. I think I was just fascinated with the stories themselves. And then there happened to be a faith component just kind of baked into the story. But I always like to, I'm not a huge fan, to be totally honest, of faith films. And so part of what I am attempting to do with these is to ground the characters in an authentic real world, and then their faith is just something that's part of them. But the story itself, I always hope doesn't come across ever, agenda driven, or it's like a little bit kind of, some of these become propaganda because they're just message driven, right? They're not focused on character and narrative and whether they're true or not. And so I try to, with the way that I kind of look at these, whether it's faith-based or not, is what's the authentic human experience? How do I dig into the character in a way that it becomes real for an audience and relevant to an audience?
Yeah, I did see that with Sight. That is one of the things that I actually mostly highlighted myself when I present the film to other people. Like, yes, it has faith based subjects, but it's balanced. You have the story of the doctors. It's there. It's what you want to see, and the faith comes later, but it mixes in so well. So that's why I asked the question. Because it's you have the best of both worlds. So that's how at least I see it, and I think that's all of these type of films. I say that the main idea is to bring the story and as well bring a message.
Yes. Well said, yes.
And Andrew, wanted to know, while you were filming, is there any moment from this story that just, how can I put this in words, that you can't believe that actually happened, or that it's just, right, I don't want to use the word break your heart, but it just got you so emotional that you had to like get yourself like a minute before you continue?
I think the feeling of feeling so much gratitude of where I've come from and the journey I've had in comparison to not just Ming's story, but there's a lot of these stories in the world of people that have gone through really tragic times and terrible circumstances. But to watch how he has never really complained and just kind of took advantage, I guess, of the freedom that he found, and then not just became successful, but to do something that he's giving back to the world so much, right? Like, he's changing the lives of hundreds of thousands of people around the world. And I think for me, that was it was pretty eye-opening to kind of apply to my own life and be like, oh man, I complain a lot, and I don't know that I'm necessarily grateful for, the circumstances that I'm in. And so I think kind of overall, that was sort of probably the more emotional thing for me, is like watching these scenes again. And I can't imagine, by the way, how it was for Ming to re-experience some of these things. But I, just watching a lot of the flashback stuff, and especially with his family, the way that family unit was so strong together and supported each other and fought for each other. And, it just, that was so impactful to me to see. So, but yeah, I think overall, truly, it was just being reminded and inspired, I guess, in a way of like, we shouldn't take these things for granted. How am I using my gifts for the world? How can I go help people? Am I doing enough to help people? All these kind of big questions that came out of this.
That's amazing. I completely agree with you, because as soon as I finished the film, I was asking myself the same questions. why am I complaining so much? And many other things, because as well, I took a leap with this. I usually don't review these type of films, and I was like,
Mm.
you know what? I think it's time. I think people should see a point of view that it's just more than the acting and the direction. It's the story, it's the message. I think it's
Mhm.
time for people to see more that, and not only see that. Probably, yeah, the film is not high budget, or it's not a triple A film, but it
Right.
brings much more than that, you know. And is there any fond memory while on set that you have?
Yeah. Um, we shot this in a really interesting time. This was right at the height of COVID. And so there were just very unique obstacles and circumstances surrounding this, like having to isolate, all the cast and crew having to isolate. There were no restaurants, there were no pubs, there was nothing open, so it was a very strange time to be making a movie. And obviously very, there was not sort of a lighthearted, fun vibe on set. It was very cautious. Everybody was cautious, right? Wearing masks and the whole thing. Um, Probably though, what I'm most proud of and kind of still in awe of is the way that this cast and crew, just the energy and the time and the effort they put into this film, even with those circumstances, especially this cast. And by the way, the young cast that is in this is phenomenal. I think they did a fantastic job. Just thinking of, Mia Swathu Nathan, who plays Little Kajal, did a phenomenal job. Ben Wang, who plays kind of the high school, college age Ming, who is now the next Karate Kid. He's shooting right now with Jackie Chan. I mean, they're just a fantastic cast. And so if I look back on the film, those are the moments I remember of just how, even in the weirdest of world circumstances, they were so committed to telling Ming's story and so committed to just, putting every commitment into it. And so I'm just kind of grateful and look back on the film just like, wow, like we did it. We did it at a time where we probably shouldn't have been making a movie, first off. And I think we made a pretty good one.
Actually, touching bases in that, going to how successful the film has been, receiving great reviews, been receiving amazing word of mouth with the audience. How did you feel that, not only because, a lot of people, the general audience, they always tend to look at Rotten Tomatoes as their main
Right.
place to be like, yeah, if it's this percentage, it's a no-go. If it's this percentage, yes, you should watch it. Even though I do not agree with that, but still, it's a main, having that Rotten Tomato fresh or audience score in the rep for the film. It's very important. How do you feel that as soon as the film came out, straight from Rotten Tomatoes, 68%? I think that when with the few reviews that had at the start, it was around the 70s, almost 80s,
Right.
and then but the audience score is in a solid 98%. So a lot of people do like this film and have enjoyed it. How do you feel that as soon as this film went to theaters,
Right.
it got that score, and you got to see that your work and the work of everybody, the cast, the crew, it paid off, and you guys have a great score in Rotten Tomato. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, like you said, it's encouraging, and it's well deserved, as you say, from the way the cast and crew approach this, and Ming's story, I think, is incredible. But you're right, you never know. You can only kind of tell these stories in the way that move you as a creative and a filmmaker, and then you hope that translates to an audience. And so you're right, it's amazing when something that moved you personally, you share, and it moves others, or inspires or makes them, laugh or cry or whatever the film is. it's really cool to see. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's the point, right? Is you, if you're going to tell stories, make films, write books or novels, whatever the medium is, right? It's to give it over to the public, to the audience. And you're right, you can never control how people react, but it is a great feeling when they see what you saw and say, whoa, oh, we love this. This really inspires us, encourages us. And you say, okay, that's cool, because that's why we made the film.
And is there any other, let's say, genre or project that you would like to be part of? You know, because there's so many genres, so many projects, and just want to know where Andrew wants to go next. You know, you have the success of Sight. Where does Andrew want to go next?
Of course, now after doing 3 in a row, I get a lot of biopics. And so, which is fine. I'm always interested in looking at those. But yeah, I do work on a lot of other genres. One that I just love, and I do have a couple projects around town. But I do love a great supernatural horror film. I love the Conjuring series and the original Exorcist and things that kind of get into where the faith and the supernatural meet. And I think it's fun to be scared in a theater. So I do love anything that kind of comes across my desk that has something to do with that genre.
That's amazing. And would you be willing to go back? Let's say, I don't want to say like make a sequel for Sight, but would we be willing to just, sit down with Angel Studios and make another amazing film like Sight with them again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up here, because Angel Studios has been an awesome collaborator. I didn't know them well before. Obviously, I kind of seen the success they were having with a couple other films, but yeah, getting to know them and just kind of collaborating with them has been they've been amazing, very professional, top class, like truly. And so, absolutely, I mean, anything they approached me with, and certainly, I've got things as well that we've been discussing. And so I really anticipate another collaboration soon for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. And Andrew, this would be my final question for you today. If you could describe Sight with one word, what would it be?
Inspiring. I think that's everybody's leaving the theater just feeling inspired, whether that's for their own life, being inspired by Ming's life. I think that to me, that was the point of the film. And it seems to be resonating, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. It is an inspiring film. I completely agree. And Andrew, I just want to say thank you very much for giving us the time to talk about Sight, talk about your career and any other projects that you have in the future. And thank you. I hope that everybody that's watching this interview, hope you guys enjoy Sight, that is already available in theaters. So thank you very much, Andrew. And I hope to see you again talking about another film.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Bye-bye.